Alrighty, you guys, welcome back into another One Piece video, and brother, to me at least, it looks like Oda is actually going to give us God Valley. The reason I believe this, the reason I'm willing to put my chips down on the table and say that's the case, is because go back to the last time we got some God Valley. It was with Kuma and his flashback. We started the chapter at God Valley, and then halfway through, Oda cuts away. He takes us to Sorbet Kingdom. He immediately snips the butt off of that right there so that we don't speculate the next week if we're going to get more or not. This time around, he ends this chapter off by saying that the legends have assembled. He reintroduced everybody. He set the stakes higher than before. And that is why I think 11, 61, 62, and 63 are gonna be absolute fire. Not saying that this chapter is not fire in its own right, but I do view this chapter as a stepping stone towards the next couple, right? This is all setup. It's all an introduction, an appetizer for what is God Valley. So, getting into the chapter now, we gotta start with the cover page story, unfortunately, but we have volume 42 of Yamato's adventure. So, Yamato has completed her pilgrimage, and she's ending off the trip by going back all the way to the flower capital, and she's now visiting Odin's grave to top it all off. And now, begs the question, but is this it? Is this where Oda is going to end the Yamato cover page story, or will there be more? Personally, I hope it does continue, because let's be real, we could get so much more from the Yamato cover page story than just Kozuki Moria and a few Tobi Roppo members. Like, easily, Oda could bring in Blackbeard, who's after the ancient weapons. He could bring in Crossguild, who's after the poneglyphs. Like, I just feel like Yamato's cover page story has so much potential, and even Kaido and Big Mom, they're still in a volcano off the coast nearby Wano. And then, of course, there's Mont Dior and Smoothie, who came to Wano, but never set foot on the island. And then we have more Tobi Roppo members that we haven't seen yet. Where's Jack the Drought, for God's sake? I just feel like Yamato's journey, while it could end here, and it would be, a fulfilling adventure, I just feel like it wouldn't be scratching the surface of what we could have gotten. Yamato, hell, could even set sail. Maybe that would be a good ending. So, I don't know. I'm very mixed on this one. I think I will, believe it or not, hold a poll in the next couple of days about this question. And since we are now in the midst of a break week, we will be holding a couple of poll videos. So make sure to go vote and drop your comments on that over there, which it's not posted yet. So don't do that yet. Stay here and post your thoughts in this video. So moving on to the first couple of pages of the chapter, we got the God Valley Tournament. We see all 9 treasure chests up there alongside the Davy Clan, and the Celestial Dragons are hooting and hollering about how these guys should just go ahead and die already. The MC, I don't know if I would call him a good guy, but he is trying to tell the Celestial Dragons to calm down, guys. Please do not kill them yet. We're gonna lose out on the value here. And amongst the Davy Clan crowd, we see some very notable characters. First up, we see a young Blackbeard alongside Rox's wife - Blackbeard's mother, and she looks pretty cool. I'm actually a little bit disappointed that we didn't get a full body shot of her, or at least a torso up shot of her, because Oda kind of cuts it off right at the forehead. It's like, wait a minute, she looks freaking awesome, man. She has like this weird Yu-Gi-Oh-esque hair going on alongside a Nico Robin-esque face. I think she looks great. Blackbeard, on the other hand, he looks absolutely freaking traumatized. It kind of reminds me of Doflamingo's flashback, where he's being strung up by the citizens, and he's like, whoa, his eyes are wide open, and he sees all the people with their vicious faces. It even reminds me a little bit of Kurozumi Orochi, and how when the villagers of Wano were hunting down his family, he kind of saw the exact same thing. This type of scenario right here is the perfect breeding ground for monsters. And can we blame them, right? This is a awful situation. Aside from Blackbeard and his mom, we do get a couple of more standout characters from the Davy Clan, most notably these 2 larger fellows in the bottom right panel of page 1. One of them even is wearing a straw hat, which I think is pretty cool. Of course, the Buccaneers, for example, had inner knowledge
of Nika's dancing and song.
And then we have the Giants of Elbaf knowing a little bit about Sun God Nika. So it's not surprising that the Davy Clan does have a item that Joy Boy would also sport. So as far as these big guys go, I've seen a lot of people saying that they are Buccaneers, and that is because one of the Celestial Dragons in the crowd does say, hey, you guys, you're Buccaneers too, aren't ya? Personally, I don't put a lot of weight in on that comment, mainly because nobody is saying it, and I really just feel like they're generalizing with that statement. They simply see a big person and they're like, hey, you're a Buccaneer, aren't ya? Like, that's how I interpreted it. Could they be Buccaneers? Sure, but that's not what I'm running with right away. I do lean towards them being probably just a giant human hybrid or just a large human, because those people do exist in the world of One Piece. I mean, hell, look at Pound. Look at the Frankie family and their Kairiki destroyers. We have seen larger humans in One Piece before. I mean, hell, look at
Whitebeard.
Look at Big Mom. To our knowledge, they don't have any special blood. Maybe it's revealed later that they do have it, but right now they're really just big people. So I do put these two Davy Clansmen in the same bucket. I think they're just people with larger bodies than usual. Maybe that's a Davy Clan thing, but we really just don't know yet, right? So I don't want to go and say that they're Buccaneers off rip because of a random one-off comment. If that comment came from Garling or came from Saturn or just any other named character, then yes, I would put a lot more stock into it, but right now, I'm leaning towards no. I do not think Blackbeard is a Buccaneer. I do not think the Davy Clansmen are Buccaneers. I think Kuma is the only Buccaneer on this island. So as far as what makes Blackbeard so special, why he's able to eat 2 devil fruits, why he's unable to fall asleep, and why he has a special body as said by Marco, I'm not super sure yet. If I had to attribute it to something, I would say that's because he's a part of the Davy Clan more than anything. Or perhaps something special happens to him here on this island. Maybe there's a ritual and Blackbeard was the main sacrifice or something of the sort. So the MC goes on and he says, now let's introduce the favorites for the individual competition. And Oda, why did you do that? He got my hopes up, you know, he really got my hopes up, because that right there is when we would have seen all the Holy Knights, or at least all the important Celestial Dragons. And that explains why at the start of the tournament, you see all the Holy Knights lined up center stage. It's because of this right here. They're introducing the top contenders in the tournament. Bro, Oda, why'd you have to cut away, man? I don't get it. I think Oda is hiding those cards close to his chest. I think next chapter, if we continue God Valley, we'll get all the family names. And I even think all the Holy Knights could get their introductions separately. But yeah, man, we missed out on a fantastic scene. Because when we do cut back, like I said, they're all already standing up on the plaza. And we get, I would say, almost the exact same shot we got back during the Kuma flashback, right? Where the Holy Knights are up there. And then we see the MC holding the sword up, and then you have everybody running as the competition starts. Of course, this time around, though, we do have the retcon of there being 9 Devil Fruit treasure chests in the background. It looks like this retcon is here to stay, and like I said last week, it's not a bad thing that this is being retconned. That just means that Oda has finally polished his idea as to what is in each and every treasure chest. You know, people call me Oda's angel because I'm like, hey, retcons aren't bad, but you know, go back to any series I cover, and I'm pretty consistent with retcons. Unless the retcon is outright egregious, where it just changes everything. But this right here, small change, so I'm not too upset at it whatsoever. So, we cut over to Dragon, and surprisingly, we do not see Shanks' mom's face yet again. Oda gave us the reveal of Blackbeard's mom, but Shanks' mom is still left in the dark, and I wonder why. Maybe it's because she dies on the very next page and Oda didn't want us to get too attached to her, or maybe he's saving this reveal for later. Like maybe when we get a Garling, Shamrock, and Shanks interaction, Garling is like, hey, you boys look just like your mother, and then we see her face or something like that. Or maybe her face would actually just reveal something really important. But we do not know. So Dragon, of course, he takes up this mission. He says, "You and your children may be strangers to me, but I want to help. If I can't do that much, then I have no business standing here." And with that, the games have begun. The celestial dragons are on the hunt. After 1 hour has passed, it is time to hunt these rabbits down. What's interesting is that one of the God Valley citizens says, "Hey, if we can hold out for 3 weeks, then we can survive. We'll make it." And that's a long time, brother. 3 weeks? They're being hunted for 3 weeks straight? There's no surviving that. You know, one day, yeah, I'd say the survival chances aren't that bad, right? If you've been working out your legs a little bit, maybe you can, I don't know, run around the island like Sanji when he was on Ivankov's island. Or maybe you have a hidey hole because this is your hometown. Maybe you could just hide down and bunker down low for 24 hours and you're good. But for 3 weeks, no. This was set up so that everybody would perish. And not just that, but we know that God Valley ceases to exist by the time this tournament ends. So from the start, they were set up for failure. They never had any chance of survival whatsoever. I think the only reason they told them that they have 3 weeks is to make sure that they cling on to that false sense of hope. You know, because if a rabbit simply gives up and accepts their fate, that's not any fun. So yes, I do think that the 3 weeks is complete bogus. And hell, even Garling, when he saw Shanks' mom, he said, "Hey, this island will disappear soon." The Celestial Dragons know exactly what they're doing. So, speaking of exacts, I do want to talk about the 13 super rare rabbits that are participating in this tournament. This isn't the first time we heard about this number, right? We heard about this number back during the Kuma flashback, but we gotta bring it up again. Who are the 13? Well, I think that simply, it's the Davy Clan, plus Kuma, of course, and possibly the king and the queen of God Valley. I think that sums it up pretty well. Because back during the Kuma flashback, we saw Garling kill the king, and he got hit with minus 10,000 points, indicating that the king, of course, was one of these super rare rabbits. So I think it could be chalked up to just that, but we'll see if Oda wants to go more in depth on that one. So, like I said, the God Valley games have begun, and we see the cruelty of the Celestial Dragons. Families are hiding behind rocks, babies are crying, getting their families shot, and boy howdy is Oda painting a picture here. So, we see that the Celestial Dragons up at the Holy Land, they are also participating in on the fun. Even though they did not travel all the way to God Valley, the Celestial Dragons are set up with giant flat screens so that they could enjoy the show too. We have people betting on which family and which individual might win the tournament, and we hear that the Fagarlands are in the current lead. But the Bavette and Man Meyer family are hot on their tails. Obviously, we know about the Man Meyer family already, but who the hell are the Bavettes, brother? So, by the end of this chapter, I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit, but we see a bunch of new Knights of God members. We see this giant woman in the background. She has like sharp teeth, almost like ancient giant horns, and she is a lot bigger than the others. And then behind her, we have an abomination? A Yeti Cool Brothers upscale? I don't know what that is, you know? Some people initially called it a Yeti. People have called it the Jersey Devil. I'm not too sure, brother. I think it looks cool. I just don't know what the hell is going on. I think that could just be a mythical Zoan transformation, or it could be an emu contract that turns him into this demon thing. But yeah, here in this chapter, we have two brand new, never before seen Knights of God. And then, of course, you know, speaking of characters we don't really know much about, but we've seen before, we have the black-haired lady to the left of Garling. We have the Man Meyer girl, who Oda is still hiding her face yet again. And then we have the skull guy behind her that we saw back during 1096. Two key characters that are missing from this lineup, though, are, of course, the guy with the gas mask and that purple-haired pretty boy we saw at the start of the game. They might not be Knights of God because they're not in the lineup, but I don't know yet. Mainly because Gunko was also not in this lineup, but you could say that Gunko at this point in time is not a Knight of God. Maybe back then she was just Saint Gunko from the Manmeyer family, and then after 38 years, she later becomes a God Knight. So the reason I wanted to jump ahead to the Knights of God panel is because of the Bavette family. I do wonder which member out of that lineup is from that family. And I might actually hold a poll on that one. Do you guys think it is the skull dude, the girl to the left of Garling, the big woman, the abominable snowman? Is it the guy with the gas mask, or maybe even the dude with the purple hair? You guys let me know down below, but I do gotta say, Oda is finally filling out these families. So I went ahead and I went back and I wrote down every celestial dragon family name we have confirmed thus far. And the reason I did that is because we know that 20 kings and queens, 20 families came together to form the world government 900 years ago. So I do think we are getting those families more and more as time goes on. And right now, I believe we have 12 of the families named already. So this chapter, we get the Bavette family. We, of course, have the Fagarland family, the Shepherd family, the Don Quixote family, the Roswell family, Manmeyer family, Remo Shifu, which is Killingham's family, Marcus family, which is Marcus Mars, Topman family, Ethan Barron family, Jay Garcia family, and then, of course, the Nefertari family, even though they left the Holy Land. So that right there is 12 families listed. And I do wonder, when are we going to get the other 8? One thing we do have to keep in mind, though, even though I listed these families, we do have to remember that people can become celestial dragons. So just because I listed them here doesn't mean that they are 100% without a shadow of a doubt the families that started the WG a long time ago. The chances are high, but they're not 100%. So, we see Garling, he's riding on his bird, which I think is really cool. We saw this bird, again, during the Kuma flashback. We're getting another shot of it here. My headcanon, I think it's an emu. I think it would be really funny if Garling is riding an emu while working under emu. And it reminds me of the supersonic duck squadron that is loyal to the Nefertari family. I kind of wonder if all celestial dragon families have their own riding animals on the side. So we see some more celestial dragons just talking on the side, and one of them says, "Hey, who did you bet on?" And this other celestial dragon says, "Hey, I bet on House Shepherd for the clan contest, but for individuals, I think Gunko is my pick." And the other guy says, "Really? Well, I suppose she is the only knight known as God's Steel, God's Sword." What a cool-ass epithet, man. And hey, speaking of epithets, this goes back to a theory we made back during chapter 1147. So, in Elbaf, when St. Smers introduced himself to Ja Rule, he said, "Hey, Jarl, I am the dagger sent from the Holy Land." And I was like, wait a minute, dagger from the Holy Land, like God's dagger. I wondered at that time if we'd get other god knights with similar epithets, and here we have it. Gunko is God's sword. So we can assume, or at least I'm assuming, that the other god knights will be listed the exact same way. Like, for example, the Manmeyer girl, she has a gun. She could be God's gun. The skull guy behind her has a scythe. He could be God's scythe. And then the girl to the left of Saint Garling, I don't know what weapon that is. It kind of looks like a spear. But it also looks like a very large Cincadia? Could be wrong. And then, of course, we have St. Killingham in Elbaf, who has a trident. All of the god knights so far have been sporting different weaponry. And then as far as St. Smers, right, he should also be the sword technically, but because he uses his prickly thorns against people, it's kind of like a bunch of mini daggers. So I see where Oda's going with that one. But yeah, dude, I think this is freaking awesome. I hope that's where Oda's going. Fingers crossed, 2 so far. Maybe we'll get more soon. So speaking of Saint Smers, he's actually the next god knight in this chapter we spent time with. And we witness one of his favorite games of all time, one of his favorite dynamics, the love of a parent for their son. We see a kid up on a tree, and St. Somers says, hey, you climbed up pretty damn high. Hop on down. I laid out a nice thorny cushion for you. Of course, the kid does not want to jump down, but Somers, he kicks the tree and the kid starts falling. And that's when the dad runs by saying, stop, that's my son. Don't worry, boy, I'll catch you. And then we know what happens next. The son is already covered in invisible thorns. The ground is covered in thorns. They got cooked. I kind of like how Oda brought this back, right? Like that little one-liner from Somers a while back saying, oh yeah, you know, kids and parents, man. Here we have it. This is his favorite pastime. Which I will admit, if I was part of the Shepherd family, I'd be a little bit upset. I'd be like, yo, Somers, stop playing around, buddy. Put some points on the board, dude. Go after those super rare rabbits. Dragon, of course, walks by this scene and he starts crying. He almost throws up, actually, which is the appropriate response. He says, man, I really thought I could help her, but if I defy the Celestial Dragons, they will execute my entire platoon too. Which is nice, right? Dragon isn't just thinking about himself. He's thinking about all the boys back on the ship. Which, speaking about the boys on the ship, we have the captain saying, hey, everybody's here, right? And then Dragon's comrade actually vouches for him, saying, yeah, naturally, sir, everybody's here. And then deep down, he's like, where the hell did that dragon kid go, man? I hope he's not on the island. We see Dragon, and he has finally stumbled upon Ivankov and Kuma. Actually, he stumbled upon a Celestial Dragon stumbling upon Ivankov and Kuma. The Celestial Dragon aims their gun over at Kuma, saying, ah, yes, I'm gonna get a super rare rabbit. 10 kills in a row, here we go. But, of course, Dragon intervenes, and he puts this guy to sleep. Hits him with a good old tranquilizer dart. He doesn't approach Kuma or Ivankov here, which I think makes sense. We kind of saw this coming, right? Because during the Kuma flashback, dude, Kuma, how many times can we bring up the Kuma flashback in this video? During the Kuma flashback, Kuma reads a newspaper about Dragon, and it's implied that they haven't met before, which is funny, because that right there is what made a lot of people believe that Dragon was not at God Valley. Like, I think Dragon being here was a really big theory when we first heard about this event, but the minute Kuma said that he's never met him yet, it was like, oh yeah, Dragon's not there. But here we have it. The reason why Kuma doesn't know about Dragon being there is because Dragon was hiding in the shadows. Thankfully, Dragon's mission of saving the kids just got a whole lot easier because boom, 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 the Rocks Pirates have arrived. The Celestial Dragons say there's no time. We gotta hide. We're being swarmed by notorious pirates. And we see the double spread of the boys, dude. We see Strossen, Stussy, Whitebeard, Barbell, who is bigger than everybody. I remember, is that a retcon? Is that another change? Because if you go back to the Rocks Pirate panel, Barbell was like half the size of Whitebeard. Am I crazy? Let me see. I have the chapter pulled up. Let me see. Wait, yeah, I see it. Barbell's like right here to Whitebeard, but here in this chapter, he's like a lot bigger. Maybe it's just like the angling, you know, Whitebeard's hunched over, Barbell's in the back now doing this. Maybe that's why, but hey, I'm all for it, brother. Give Barbell all the hype, man. We see Big Mom, we see Shiki, Kyoto, Gloriosa, Captain, Jack, and Kaido. The only character, very odd. We know he's here. The only character we do not see in the double spread, actually two characters, but one of them doesn't matter as much, would be first up, Gil Bestar, who, like I said, is an SPS kind of thing. It's a nod to one of Oda's older works. Him not getting focus makes sense. But the other character is Ganzui. Ganzui is not here. Ganzui the smuggler. Which is funny, because in chapter 1096, you actually see a panel of Ganzui and a panel of Gil Bestar too. So Oda not bringing them into the double spread and also not giving them a text box. Kind of weird. Of course, Wang Ji also is not here, but Wang Ji stayed back at Hachinosu because if he showed up here, he'd be killed. You know, the minute Shaki says, hey, he kidnapped me, the Rocks Pirates are probably just going to kill him. So Rocks here in the double spread, he says, listen up, fellas, they got Shaki. along with a bunch of treasure and not to mention devil fruits. There's no point in us killing each other. Let's just work together for now, and we'll divvy up the booty once we're back. And there better be no belly aching. Got it? I love how he talks like a pirate. And of course, we have a great Oda split. On the right side, we have a bunch of characters that are aiming for Shaki, right? Barbell's like, yo, we can't share her. Shiki's like, yeah, obviously we can't. She'll fall in love with whoever saves her. Kyo says, yeah, that's damn right. I'm not backing down. Captain John says, well, she's gonna fall for whoever has the most treasure. And even Whitebeard, of course, partakes in this. And he says, suit yourselves, boys. I'm just here to save her as a friend. But also, if she falls in love with me, that wouldn't be bad either. And then we cut over to the left side. We have Stussy saying, wait, how could you say that, Newgate? We then get Gloriosa, who also wants to save Shaki, and she says that Roger should be grateful if he saves her, right? Strusen talks about Wang Ji, and then Big Mom tries to burst everybody's bubbles, saying that, hey, even if you guys save her, she would not give you guys the time of day. And then Kaido, keeping his eyes on the prize, he says, hey, Lin Lin, you're gonna save one of those devil fruits for me, right? Which is hilarious because we do know that Big Mom gives him the Azure Dragon devil fruit here. But yeah, man, the double spread of the Rocks Pirates, God, it's so good. It's so freaking good. So now that the Rocks Pirates have landed, Rocks, of course, is the one who jumps off the ship first. He says, give up your lousy Marines and follow me, crew. And you could see this and say, oh yeah, Rocks is that guy. You know, Rocks just, he's egging for a fight. But you know, deep down, he's probably crying, dude. He's probably like, yo, where's my family? He probably sees what's happening on this island and he's like, yo, I gotta go quick. You know, I have no time to wait for the boys behind me. I gotta go ASAP. So, like I said, but because of all of the commotion, Dragon's job got a lot easier. He now walks up onto the Celestial Dragons and he picks up a baby Shanks and Shamrock and runs away. Kind of cool. You know, Dragon is using his Marine outfit to his advantage because you actually see Marines on the island still with the Celestial Dragons. So Dragon being here and not being questioned just makes a lot of damn sense. So Dragon doesn't really have a goal in mind right now. You know, he saved the kids, but now comes the question of what's next, right? Because Dragon can't simply go back to the Marine ship with babies. Right, what are you gonna say? Oh, guys, I'm like a male seahorse. I ate the seahorse know me, and as a male, I gave birth to twins. Like, nobody's gonna believe that. So with that being the case, we can assume that Dragon is now faced with a very tough decision. Who does he give these two kids to? Right, he's gonna have to choose between the other Marines. Maybe one of them will take responsibility. Maybe he gives them to another Celestial Dragon family, which is just a bad idea. Or does he trust the pirate, right? Or does he just leave it in Fate's hands and he puts them in the treasure chest? I do wonder what is Dragon's next course of action. I feel like the only person right now that it makes sense for Dragon to turn to would be Garp. You know, maybe he hears that his dad's on the island and then he runs over to his dad and he's like, hey, Dad, what do I do with these two? And then that's when Garp has like the crazy idea to put them in the chest. I could see Garp saying that, right? That sounds like a very Garp thing to do. So, moving on with the chapter, but the Rocks Pirates are not the only pirates that show up on this island, of course. We got the Roger Pirates coming in at full force right after them. Roger says, I'm here to save you, Shaki. You guys have no chance with her. Focus on stealing the treasure. The Roger Pirates didn't like that take from Roger, so they ended up stomping Roger, and they all ran off to go save Shaki. Pretty funny stuff. So, because pirates are now invading the island, Garling sighs, and he says, well, I guess the game's over. God Knights to me, pull back the Marines and see to it that the Celestial Dragons are protected. The Knights of God are now rallying. And like I said, that is when we get all these boys up here, posed up, the gang. And a couple of quick thoughts, you know, minus what I talked about earlier. But the man Meyer girl, even last week, I said it was very odd that Oda did not show us her face. Back in 1096, no face. Last chapter, no face. Here again, in this chapter, 3 times in a row, no face. Oda is hiding her face like she's the damn man off the coast of Elbaf. You remember that? Remember Scopper before we got the reveal? It's like, oh, here's the back of his head. Ooh, here's his hair. Ooh, he's walking up the stairs. Who is he? Like, he's kind of doing the same thing with this Man Meyer girl. Like, I wonder why. I feel like when we get her full face, she is going to look very familiar. She is going to be somebody that we recognize. So right now, my own headcanon, my own theories about this, I have two of them. One, she could look like York. I mean, she has the same face shape, the hair, it looks to be about the same length. Maybe it's a York looking person. And the reason why they look like York is because York is obviously not real. Well, okay, she is real, but she's a clone that Vegapunk created. Maybe this girl was the model for York. And because Vegapunk modeled York after a celestial dragon, York, of course, wanted to become a celestial dragon. And of course, that would fit the markings of greed as well. That is where I'm kind of at right now. My second crazier theory is that she could look like Nami. You know, because as far as Nami goes, we don't know anything about her backstory. You know, popular theories are that she could be a descendant of a celestial dragon or some royal family. So maybe she'll look like her. And then, of course, even in the OPLA, I always bring this up, but in One Piece live action, there is a Man Meyer Easter egg at Logtown, and the Man Meyers own a shopping district. So it's like, yeah, like I could kind of see the relation there, but like I said, that's just me. So now on to the big lady in the back. She's very cool looking. She's got like this split black and white seeming hair up top. I'm not too sure what's going on with her. Right, it's weird looking at her and looking at the Yeti monster, hairy fuzzball creature in the back, because we know that celestial dragons are very discriminatory, right? They would not miss a chance at being racist, even if it costed them their lives. So there's no way that that's an ancient giant, right? And there's no way that that is a Yeti giant. I don't know. I am leaning towards those being transformations, or maybe it's one of those cases where, hey, we hate ancient giants and people who look like you, but you're the one exception, big girl and hairy guy. Maybe that's it. Either way, though, like I said, they look really cool. The lady's even like smoking a cigar, but yeah, I think the Knights of God designs are freaking cooking. Of course, like I said, we are missing two of them. We're missing the purple hair dude, and we're also missing the gas mask guy. Could be that they're not Knights of God yet, or maybe they're just rallying on another side of the island. But yeah, we cannot forget about those two boys over there. So now, on to the last page of the chapter. Pretty quick, huh? Very short video here. But like I said, this is all an amuse-bouche to God Valley, right? This is just the start. We see Whitebeard, we see Shiki, they're going absolutely ham. Kind of cool, right? It's funny because going back, people were like, oh yeah, Whitebeard is like, horrible analogy. Whitebeard's like the Zorro of the Rocks Pirates, and then Shiki's the Sanji, you know? You got the right hand, the left hand, the wings of Rocks D. Zebek over here. And when I look at this panel, I kind of do see it, right? I kind of see it. So they're slicing and dicing Marines. But of course, even from off the coast, Garp witnesses this and he yells out, "Hey now!" Ugh. Right there, I had to really fight the urge to say, "You're a rock star." But Garp says, "I'm not gonna stand by and watch while you dice up my troops like vegetables." He throws the cannonball and we see this massive explosion. And I love Rock's and Roger's reaction. They both turn, they're like, huh? And that is when we see the Marines cheering him on. They're like, yo, we're saved. It's Vice Admiral Garp. And it's so funny, dude. We have the Knights of God, the Roger Pirates, the Rocks Pirates. And then here we have it. Garp, the lone VA coming in. And the box says Garp's fleet. You know, Garp's fleet, that's such a funny term. Because I feel like everybody underneath Garp right now are just a bunch of nobodies. We have Bogard. Yeah, I see him. I see Bogard. I don't think Bogard's going to do anything, guys. I hate to say. If Bogard gets a panel where he's clashing with Cheeky, Whitebeard, or Scopper, or Rayleigh, or I don't know, Garling, I would be shocked. Beauregard is just the character that exists in limbo in my mind, man. Until he does something, until he says something in the canon story, he's just a ghost. He's a phantom in the room, man. But yes, Garp is here. And that last panel where he's grinning, I don't know why, man. I got goosebumps, right? You see Garp grinning, and then you got the text that says the legends have assembled. And I'm like, damn, they're all here, man. We're finally getting it. I'm gonna hold the poll. I will hold the poll on whether or not we'll get God Valley, because I have seen some people saying that we're just gonna cut back to Elbaf. You know, hey, don't forget, guys, this is Loki's flashback. But it's like, dude, we've been getting a lot of non-Loki content. I think this transcends the Loki flashback at this point. I even saw this really hilarious meme where it's Loki sitting down and he's like, hey, yeah, and then, like, let me tell you, God Valley happened, and then Garp showed up, and then Rox is there, but Rox isn't his real name, it's actually Davy. And it's like, yeah, imagine Loki in real time telling all of this to Luffy and Hyrutin. Like, it's not possible, especially given the fact that Hyrutin gave Loki a 3-minute timer. Brother, let me see. How many chapters have we been in the flashback? Let me look it up real quick. We're at 1160. The flashback started 8 chapters ago. 1152, bro. We've been here for months, man. We've been here for freaking months. And the thing is that this flashback should not even end with God Valley. We still have to get King Harold after Rox's death. We have to get King Harold meeting Shanks, King Harold pulling out his horns, and then the day King Harold dies, and possibly afterwards. Dude, this flashback is going to go on for a minute. What month is it? September? Let me see. September. I think this will go on until November. I'm going to be honest. I think we're going to be in flashback mode for a while. And I'm all for it, brother. I love seeing the old gen show out, because these are characters that we're not gonna spend any more time with, right? You can't say, oh yeah, we'll leave the flashback and we'll get more Whitebeard one day. You know, we'll leave the flashback. We're gonna get more Garp soon. What about Roger? Yeah, he's gonna show up pretty soon too. What about Davy D. Zabek? No, dude, these guys are gone, man. These guys are gone and or out of their prime. So I think this flashback will do wonders for everybody. But that is just my opinion. Let me know what you guys thought about this chapter down below. I would love to hear all those thoughts, those opinions. And yes, that's right. This is a shorter video. Apologies for that, guys. Actually, I don't know. How long have I been recording? I've been recording for... Okay, the timing's not that bad, actually. Wait a minute. Let me see here. What else do I want to say before we head out? Oh, first, like I said earlier, we will be holding a lot of polls in the next couple of days. I'll be doing the comment video, the poll videos, of course, the Brago video, the PAR video. They're all going to come out. But because it's a break week, I will end up delaying those videos a little bit. I'll kind of space them out so that you guys have something to enjoy every other-ish day. And of course, that's just me being lazy. You know, I still work on the side. And I'm going to be honest, guys, when I come home... I have been playing a lot of Silk Song, you know. I have a couple of games on the side. Borderlands came out. I'm still demoting in League. Like, there's just so much, brother. If you're a gamer out there that also, you know, reads One Piece, we're living life, man. We're living life. But that's besides the point. I'm getting off topic now. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I really freaking appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.